Shalom, warriors of Yahuwah and the truth. I'm going to continue with my series on fossilized customs. Your first struggle, obedience. Yeah. Obad, Hebrew for servant. The one obeying Yahuwah belongs to him. Like the rainbow he has set in the clouds as a sign of his covenant with all living creatures to never destroy the earth by water again. He has established a sign between him and his bride, those who have chosen to obey his voice, his word. Starting in Genesis, the seventh day was established as a sign which shows to Yahuwah who we worship as creator, since the fourth commandment was given to commemorate creation. The great prostitute hates the mark, Yahuwah, which is the sign of his covenant. The Shabbat has nothing to do with the resurrection, but people have been hypnotized to believe otherwise. The text we usually hear used to prove the disciples changed the Shabbat to Sunday to celebrate the resurrection of Yahusha are examined here, because you will find great resistance to obeying the true Shabbat. Concerning the day of Yahuwah, translated day of the LORD at Revelations 1:10, many have been taught that this was Sunday, yet it is really the future time of testing which Yehukanan was writing about, as he said he was in the Spirit. A vision of the time of wrath was being shown to him. If he wanted us to know what day of the week it was, he would have said so by saying on the first day of the week, like other passages did. Let's look at the text about Sunday, which people seem to see in Acts 20 and 1 Corinthians. It is only tradition that has interpreted selected texts in order to apply a scriptural basis for a Sunday observance. You will notice the Shabbat is referred to in Hebrews 4, and it remains for the people of Yahuwah. Paul never stated that it was any other day, and it's mentioned many times in Acts. Acts 1:12 even mentions a Shabbat's distance of about 3/4 mile, and the NIV footnotes verify this. This was not a Sunday. The best way to prove to yourself that Shabbat is the same day as it has always been is to just go through the entire book of Acts and circle the word Shabbat every time it appears. Acts was written many years after the resurrection. It was Constantine who instituted the change of the day of rest. The Council of Laodicea made Sunday a canon law. At Acts 27, Paul was prepared to leave the next morning, and the Shabbat had ended at sunset. And he and Luke, the writer, came together with a small group in a house. Translations say it was on the first day of the week, but it really says first of Shabbats, meaning the first Shabbat in the count to Shavuot, mentioned later in the chapter. Luke records there were many lamps in this second floor room, because it was after dark now, and Shabbat has just ended. Paul went on speaking until midnight. Little Eutychus fell asleep and dropped out the window, overcome with sleep. It says they broke bread, meaning they had a meal, like the meal Yahusha had with the two on the road to Emos. His Aunt Miriam and Uncle Cleophas. Yahusha was invited into their home, and when he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Luke 24:30. Breaking bread is just eating. At 1 Corinthians 16:2, Paul was writing to the Corinthians to prepare for their gift to Yahuwah's people, the poor in Jerusalem. Since he would be soon passing through on his way to Jerusalem, this was not a collection for Yahuwah's work. It was for the poor, and it was for that special occasion. The first day of the week was and still is the first work day of every week. And so the people were to make this collection then, so everyone would do it in an orderly way. There is no scriptural order of any kind to have this done at all times everywhere. The Corinthians may have congregated on the seventh-day Shabbat, those who wished to, and then the funds for the poor were collected the following day, from the previous week's proceeds. This was not a big mystery, but it has been turned into a business by the ravenous wolves who plunder the flocks, and has been the tradition for well over 1,000 years under the authority of the great prostitute. Pesach or Passover is the remembrance of our Passover lamb, and Yahusha is metaphorically called the bread of life, which came down from Shamayim. It is apparent that the wolves... I love you. Okay. It is apparent that the wolves want to take 10% from their followers, and yet Paul wept for years over this. If you check what he told the elders at Acts 20:13-38, we take the emblems of bread and wine only once every year at Pesach. A remembrance of Yahusha's death is done as twilight comes on at the beginning of the 14th of the first moon. The 7-day festival of Matzah begins at sunset, the beginning of the 15th, the time the lamb was to be eaten. The lambs were slain on the 14th and eaten on the 15th. We are not to slay them anywhere else but Jerusalem, where we were told to assemble. Deuteronomy 12. We are now in captivity among the nations, but will be regathered when Yahusha returns. Our Roman calendar is the beast's cycle. It is part of the filth in the golden cup filled with abominations in the prostitute's hand. Man-made festivals. I apologize. I'm sick and tired today, and I'm just trying to at least do one lesson if I can. At 1 Corinthians 5:7-10, Paul says, "For Mashiach, our Passover lamb, has been slain. Therefore let us keep the festival, not with the old yeast, but with bread made without yeast, the bread of sincerity and truth." Christendom has called Shabbats and the festivals, such as Passover, as legalistic and a yoke of bondage, missing the meaning. It turned previously pagan observances into its own false worship or strange fire and made man-made traditions replace the Torah observances. Christianity developed from Catholicism's catechetical school at Alexandria, later giving birth to her daughters, the Reformers. It has never had a Passover, but instead invented their own methods, bent on plunder and deception, reinventing previously pagan observances, mixing the clean with the unclean and darkness with light. If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. If you are asking men who are blind to show you the narrow way, what will be the end of it? Test everything. Try circling every occurrence in Acts where the word Shabbat occurs, and you will begin to see the truth, and it will set you free. How evil would it have been if we had simply inherited the tradition of obeying the fourth commandment, as it is written? Shavuot, aka Pentecost, is one of the commanded festivals in Leviticus 23 and commemorates the giving of the Torah at Sinai. Nazarim have the Torah written on their hearts, fulfilling the prophesied renewed covenant described in Jeremiah 31:33, Ezekiel 36:26 and 27, Hebrews 10:16. Shaitan, or Satan, has led away and deceived the whole world, and we have inherited the echoes of his sun worship pattern, and not our father's pattern. We are labeled Judaizers for obeying the commandments and rejecting human traditions. Many are being refined by the spirit of Yahusha. We are being ripped away from the common bedrock of tradition and are encountering persecution. The darkness will not approach the light for fear of exposure. We are the living stones, the temple of Yahuwah made without hands. Wherever two or more of us are gathered, He is in our midst. No building can ever be as set apart as ourselves. When we stop searching for the place, the people, and the organization and turn to Him as our teaching authority, He gives us the truth. He is wisdom, and by wisdom, all things were created. Daniel 11:33 through 35 describes the struggle with the great prostitute, and Daniel 12:10 is being fulfilled today. The Hebrew word for wisdom is, I'm sorry if I butcher this, chakma, chakma. It's Chochmah, if anyone wants to look up how to pronounce it. In Him resides all the depths of knowledge, and He will equip us for every work we are to accomplish while in our flesh. The keys to the kingdom of Yahuwah have been given to us, and in our obedience to His Torah, we show our love for Him. With the wisdom of Torah, we can bind and loose, forbid and permit, so others can be guided by truth. There will be many times your steadfastness will be tested, but remember to keep your eyes on Him, not the winds of human logic and tradition. All kinds of teachers say diverse things regarding when an appointed day begins, or certain rules regarding Shabbats and Kabbalistic leavening, puffed up knowledge. But remember, all you need is written down in the inspired word, which is useful for all teaching, rebuking, and correcting in righteousness. Practicing what it says will strengthen you like exercise strengthens muscles. And deeper understanding comes from observing the appointed times. Shabbat, Pesach, Shavuot, Yom Teruah, or the Day of the Shout, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. The adversary hates the covenant and attacks Yahusha's bride. His servants you should avoid, because we have been warned to not cast our pearls before swine, or they will attack us. In all things be filled with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If you treat others as you would have them treat you, you will put others above your own needs. Develop the character and behavior Yahuwah looks for in you. When we debate with someone who argues over the name or Shabbats, they are at a critical point. They really want to be shown the truth. Be patient and loving and ask them if they love the commandments. This will give them a perspective, and the scriptures stored in their hearts will convict them of sin. This is the beginning. They must be convicted of their sinfulness, but all their lives they have been programmed to believe their sins are covered and never started in the right place. They started off out of step. Their sins are only covered when they repent and turn from sin. Yahusha enables them in their spirit to agree with the Torah, and they will pass from their mind of the flesh into our realm, the mind of the spirit. They will never be able to go back to the thinking that the commandments are done away with or blotted out. The Torah is spiritual, and the mind of the flesh cannot obey. Be patient with everyone who wants to learn the evidence and foundation of your faith. They are where we all were once at one point. And as it happened for us, they can be used to carry the true message to many others. No one is hopeless if they are praying for the truth. When it is shown that human traditions have become religion and partial truths have been mixed with lies and doctrines of demons, a rebellion will occur like no other before, all over the earth, and then Yahushua will return to rule over us. We are part of the restoration, the rebuilding of the temple of Yahuwah made without hands. This is the temple that will come from the skies. It will be us. You have found the true Nazarene. Welcome. We are hated without a cause, like Yahushua. Like he said, we would be persecuted as he was persecuted. And we are in a war of truth against lies, light against darkness. We are spoken against everywhere. Because of Christian anti-Semitism and misinformation, many will say that this symbol was used by pagans, but there is an older origin to it that is overlooked. It isn't a religious symbol. Yet it is a scriptural figment. The symbol of the Torah, Yahushua, is the menorah, a representation of the tree of life. The banner of King DAUD struck terror in the hearts of his enemies as the two inverted letters represented the name DAUD. He was the beloved one of Yahuwah. Beloved is spelled Daleth Dalet. It's basically how I pronounced it, but the middle is U-A-U. It's the king's seal, and it will be the throne of Daud upon, or David, if you're Christian, upon which Yahushua will one day sit to reign the earth and the universe. People are led to believe this seal was the star mentioned at Acts 7, but that star was made to bow to. The seal of Daud has never been bowed to. The crux symbol was, and still is, bowed to throughout human history. The Yahudim venerated the zodiac, even putting the animal symbols in Yahuwah's temple, Ezekiel 8, and in other buildings. And this is the two Daleths, or Daleths. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but it's right here. Okay. And now I'm going to continue with Daud's name is his seal. Yashayahu Isaiah 11:10-13 describes a banner which is a flag. Ephraim, one of the 10 lost families of Yasharal, is mentioned along with Yehuda and Adonai Yahuwah, is said to reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the remnant of his people who were lost, dispersed over the earth. On this banner is the symbol of the root of Yishai. This means a descendant of Yishai being Daud. It's a king's seal, the literal name of Daud. It has his letters of his name in it. Commonly called a star, it is really Daud's name written in two Paleo-Hebrew letters. Two Daleths, the beginning and ending of Daud's name. It stands today on the flag of Yasharal and is the symbol of a great king of Yasharal that once ruled over all the tribes. Over time, Shaitanists or Satanists began to use it with a circle around it, since in conjuring up demons, they believe they must stand in a circle of protection as they do so. That won't help, since candles and circles with symbols in them cannot protect anyone from demons. They may as well repel them with a crux, as we see done in vampire movies. By the way, the real reason Dracula hates the crux, it is the symbol of the sun. Vampires are not real, but demons are. Right here, baby. Yep. Many Christian teachers are actively promoting the notion that this seal is demonic and refer to Acts 7:43, but they are mistaken. The shrine of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan is the symbol used by Islam today, which is a moon and star, symbolizing, it might work, child sacrifice to Moloch. The moon symbol represents Semiramis, Diana, Artemis, Asherah, Ishtar, and Easter, and the star is Tammuz, her child. Another image commonly seen today but misunderstood is the old image of Shamash, here seen on an ancient incense burner and later on a Catholic stained glass window reinterpreted to be the Star of Bethlehem. And here is the depiction for that, the top two pictures. Some will try to convince you that it is an evil talisman able to be inhabited by demons. Try to educate them, but avoid being offensive. 1 Peter 3:8-12 is a text that should guide us in love and applies to many areas. The crux seen by Constantine was in his mind, the image of his deity Apollo, the sun. The ancient world has no doubt what the crux image represents, but we do today. Constantine and Apollo on a coin. Right there. Paul and circumcision. One of Paul's biggest challenges came from those Nazarene who insisted on circumcising adult Gentiles. Those who reject or misunderstand Paul sometimes force ritual circumcision on new converts. When Nazarene discuss these kinds of issues, I like to bear in mind that while there is an ideal goal in all of Yahuwah's wonderful teachings, our love has to remain the foremost goal. Our love. Achieving absolute perfection and not having love, we are doomed to fail. Our love is the real test, and by the measure we judge, we will be judged. By the measure we judge, we will be judged. Love is a verb, an action word, not a feeling. The thief who died next to Yahusha was accepted because he had a change of thinking. Circumcision is an eternal covenant sign. It is related to land inheritance, but not eternal life. Our immersion in the name of Yahusha, who we covenant with, has become our circumcision. It is a pledge of a good conscience towards Yahuwah. Paul states it very well. In him you were also circumcised in putting off of the sinful nature. Not with a circumcision done by the hands of men, but with the circumcision done by Mashiach, having been buried with him in immersion or baptism, and raised with him through your faith in the power of Yahuwah, who raised him from the dead. Colossians 2:11 and 12. Immersion represents our circumcision by Yahusha, the living word. The main issue of the council recorded at Acts 15 regarding Gentiles turning to Yahuwah involved the controversy of fleshly circumcision, and the decision reached remains unclear even to many Nazarene today. Those who believe and are immersed will be delivered. Yahusha didn't include fleshly circumcision here, so an adult Gentile can become a Yehudi without a fleshly circumcision. Is the sign Oth, O-T-H, of the eternal covenant circumcision or the Shabbat? Yahusha circumcises our hearts so we can walk in the Spirit, obeying the Torah willingly as an obedient servant. Ephesians 2:11 discusses how a Gentile's citizenship in Yasharal is accomplished by Yahusha's blood, and the dividing wall between believing Gentiles and the circumcised is abolished. Romans 3:28 and 29 states, A man is not a Yehudi or Jew if he is only one outwardly circumcision, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a man is a Yehudi if he is one inwardly, and circumcision is circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a man's praise is not from men, but from Elohim. Romans 3:30 states that Yahuwah will justify the circumcised by faith, and the uncircumcised through that same faith. Romans 4 explains more about this. Circumcision is and always has been an issue of controversy among Nazarene. Belief or trust in Yahusha's redemptive blood makes us children of Abraham, who was justified even before he was circumcised. All believers who have been circumcised by the sword of the Spirit in their hearts are children of Yahuwah. We are unable to perfect or improve what Yahusha has already done. Alright, guys, I'm going to continue next time with manifestation of Yahuwah or Yahusha, and Yahusha, or DAUD is not in heaven. Scattered tribes became the nations, accepting those who are different. Elohim means father of nations. And then carrying money on Shabbat? Huh? A question, baby. It's a question. Yeah, like, should you carry money on Shabbat? Yeah, I'm going to read that in my next video. Okay. Alright, so I hope everyone has a blessed day. And if I feel up to it later, I will come back on and I will read some more to you guys and do another lesson. All praises to the Most High. I love you all, warriors of Yahuwah and the truth. And I'll be back on later, Yahuwah willing.